Pass the salt, would you? Or is that too expensive for you on a teacher's salary? My cousin Derek's voice dripped with condescension as he gestured toward the crystal salt shaker, deliberately displaying his new Rolex. Around the massive dining table of my aunt's mansion, several relatives snickered. I'm Emily Chen, 34, high school computer science teacher, and apparently the family disappointment. At least that's how they saw me. You know Emily, Aunt Helen chimed in, adjusting her pearl necklace. Anderson Prep is always looking for teachers. The pay is much better than public school. I could put in a word, she trailed off, examining my simple blazer from H&M with barely concealed disdain. I'm happy at Roosevelt High, thank you, I replied, passing the salt to Derek. My students. Yes, your precious inner-city students, Derek interrupted, rolling his eyes. Meanwhile, the rest of us are out here building real wealth. Did I mention our company just acquired another tech startup? I took a sip of water, thinking about the email I'd received that morning from my investment team. Derek's company, Chen Dynamics, had indeed acquired a startup for vastly more than it was worth, using capital they didn't really have. But they didn't need to know that I knew that. How wonderful, I murmured. You should let Derek help you invest some money, my mother suggested hopefully. Even on your modest income, you should think about the future. If they only knew about my present, about the real reason I chose to teach, about what I was really worth. 10 years ago, fresh out of college with my computer science degree, I had 2 job offers. One was from a prestigious tech company offering 6 figures and stock options. The other was from Roosevelt High School, paying barely enough to cover rent in a decent neighborhood. I chose teaching. My family was horrified. You're throwing your life away, Aunt Helen had declared. Teaching is for people who can't make it in the real world. What they didn't know was that I'd already made it. My senior project in college, a revolutionary algorithm for predictive data analysis, had caught the attention of a venture capital firm. While my classmates were interviewing for jobs, I was secretly negotiating the sale of my technology. The final price, $10 million, plus ongoing royalties. I could have retired then, lived off investments, or started my own company like Derek. Instead, I followed my passion. I became a teacher because I wanted to, not because I had to. And over the past decade, while my family mocked my career choice, I turned that initial windfall into a substantial fortune through careful investments and continued technological innovations, all developed quietly in my spare time. Emily's just not ambitious, Derek was saying now, cutting into his wagyu beef. Some people are content with mediocrity. Aunt Helen nodded sagely. At least she has summers off. Though God knows she could use that time to build some actual skills. I thought about my previous summer, spent overseeing the acquisition of a major AI firm through my holding company, which I ran under a different name. The purchase had made headlines in the tech world. Derek had actually complained about losing the bid, never knowing his mediocre cousin was behind it. How is the company doing, Derek? I asked innocently. I heard there were some challenges with the latest acquisition. He stiffened slightly. Just routine integration issues. Nothing to worry about. But there was plenty to worry about. My analysts have flagged serious problems with Chen Dynamics' recent moves. Over-leveraged acquisitions, mounting debt, and a desperate attempt to maintain the appearance of success. They were 3 months away from a major cash crunch, though only a handful of insiders knew it. Of course, I smiled. I'm sure you know what you're doing. More than someone who spends their days explaining basic coding to teenagers, he shot back. My phone buzzed. A text from Mia, one of my former students who now ran my family office under her real name while I remained anonymous. 911. Chen Dynamics reaching out. They're looking for emergency investment. Want to discuss Monday. I tucked my phone away, hiding a smile. Right on schedule. Speaking of my students, I said, I should get home. Papers to grade. On a Saturday night, Derek's wife Jennifer asked, dripping with pity. Oh honey, some of us have to work weekends, I replied mildly, standing up. Not all of us can afford dinner at Le Cirque every Saturday. You could, Aunt Helen said, if you'd made better choices. If they only knew. The following Monday, I sat in my classroom during lunch break, video conferencing with Mia, while my students' latest projects rated themselves using a program I developed years ago. Another quiet success they'd never know about. They're desperate. Mia reported. Chen Dynamics needs $2 million by the end of the month just to meet payroll. They're offering preferred shares at a steep discount. And the overall situation. They need at least $10 million to stay afloat through the quarter. Their last 3 acquisitions were basically pyramid schemes, using each new purchase to paper over the problems with the previous one. It's all coming due at once. I leaned back in my chair, thinking, who else have they approached? Every major player in town. No one's biting. They know it's a sinking ship. Mia paused. Except. Summit Technologies put in a lowball offer to buy them out. 50 cents on the dollar. Derek Chen would lose control of the company. Summit Technologies, my company, though nobody knew that. I built it quietly over the years, using my algorithm as the foundation for a business that had become Chen Dynamics' biggest competitor. How did Derek take the offer? Apparently he threw a stapler at his CFO and called Summit's CEO. Called you. Some pretty colorful names. I smiled. Schedule a meeting with them for Thursday. Let's see how desperate they really are. Are you going to help them? Maya asked. We'll see. One way or another. It's time for some truths to come out. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. I've got to go. AP Computer Science awaits. Have fun teaching basic coding to teenagers, Mia grinned, repeating Derek's snide comment from the dinner. Always do. By the way, how's that trading algorithm you developed for your senior project coming along? Just reached beta testing. Early results are incredible. Excellent. Let's talk about scaling it up on Wednesday. I ended the call just as my students began filing in. Looking at their eager faces, I felt the familiar surge of satisfaction. This was why I chose teaching, not just to share knowledge, but to spot and nurture talent that others might overlook. Like Mia 3 years ago, sitting in that same classroom, brilliant but believing she couldn't afford college. Now she was running a billion-dollar investment office and developing potentially revolutionary trading technology. All right, class, I said, standing up. Who's ready to debug some Python? As I guided them through the lesson, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Mia. Derek Chen personally requesting meeting tomorrow. Says it's urgent. I thought about my cousin's sneering face at dinner, about all the years of condescension and mockery. Tell him Thursday, I texted back. Some of us have to work for a living. The next 2 days passed slowly. I taught my classes, met with Mia to discuss her algorithm, and quietly put certain pieces in place. By Thursday morning, everything was ready. The meeting was set for 4 p.m. at Chen Dynamics headquarters. As I parked my modest Honda Civic in the visitor spot, I couldn't help but smile at the familiar logo on the building. A design Derek had actually copied from an early Summit Technologies product, never realizing he was stealing from his own cousin. Time to see if the family could handle a different kind of lesson. The receptionist at Chen Dynamics did a double take when I gave my name. You're the investor meeting? I smoothed my teacher's blazer, hiding a smile. That's right. But she looked at my faculty ID badge still hanging around my neck after school. Running a bit late? I supplied. Sorry about that. Parent-teacher conferences. Before she could respond, Derek burst into the lobby, his normally impeccable suit slightly rumpled. Where is the Summit Tech? He froze, seeing me. Emily? What are you doing here? Hello, Derek. I believe we have a meeting scheduled. His face reddened. This is a private business matter. I'm expecting someone from Summit Technologies. Yes, I said calmly. You are. The confusion on his face would have been comical if it wasn't also a little sad. I don't have time for games, Emily. I have an important meeting. With the CEO of Summit Technologies, I finished. I know, shall we? He stared at me, realization slowly dawning. You're not, you can't be. We should probably continue this conversation in private. Minutes later, we sat in Derek's corner office. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled up Summit's corporate profile on his computer. This is impossible, he muttered. Summit Technologies was founded 8 years ago by EC Holdings, a private investment firm owned by. His voice trailed off as he read the name. Emily Chen, I completed. Though most people just call me Ms. Chen in the classroom. He slumped back in his chair. But, you're a teacher. Yes. By choice, not necessity. I opened my laptop. Now, should we discuss Chen Dynamics' current financial situation, or would you like to make more jokes about my salary first? The door opened and Jennifer, Derek's wife, bustled in. Derek, your mother's on her way up. She says she won't let you sell to those summit vultures without. She stopped short, seeing me. Emily, what are you doing here? Taking notes for those vultures, apparently, I said mildly. Derek made a strangled sound. Emily owns Summit Technologies. Jennifer collapsed into a chair. That's not possible. You're a teacher. A teacher who developed a revolutionary data analysis algorithm in college. I confirmed. The same algorithm Chen Dynamics tried to replicate last year, I believe. How did that work out for you? Before Derek could answer, Aunt Helen swept in. Derek, I forbid you to sell to Emily. She blinked rapidly. What is this, career day? More like judgment day, Derek muttered. She owns Summit. Aunt Helen's perfectly maintained facade cracked. What? Please, sit down. I gestured to the remaining chairs. This concerns all of you. Once they were seated, I pulled up the financial analysis on the conference room screen. Chen Dynamics is 3 weeks away from insolvency. Your last 4 acquisitions were grossly overvalued. Your debt is unsustainable, and your attempt to copy Summit's technology has failed spectacularly. How dare you? Aunt Helen began. The company needs an immediate infusion of $2 million just to meet payroll, I continued, and another $8 million to survive the quarter. No one else will invest. Summit's offer of 50 cents on the dollar is your only option. Derek's face had gone from red to white. Unless what? Jennifer demanded. She wants control of the company, Derek realized. That's why Summit's been competing with us all these years. You've been planning this. I laughed. Derek, if I'd been planning this, you'd have gone bankrupt years ago. I competed with you fairly. You're the one who made bad decisions. Why? Aunt Helen whispered. Why pretend to be just a teacher all these years? Why hide your success? I wasn't pretending. I am a teacher. I'm also a successful business owner. The two aren't mutually exclusive. I looked at her directly. Though you never could understand that, could you? The room fell silent as years of condescension, mockery, and judgment hung in the air between us. What are your terms? Derek finally asked. I opened another file. Summit will acquire Chen Dynamics at 75 cents on the dollar, considerably more generous than our initial offer. You retain a minority stake and a seat on the board, but operational control passes to us immediately. And if we refuse? Then I walk away, and you explain to your shareholders why you chose bankruptcy over a fair offer. I paused. Oh, and you might want to explain those unauthorized personal expenses charged to the company. My forensic accountants found some interesting patterns. Jennifer gasped. Derek's face went ashen. You wouldn't, he whispered. Try me. Aunt Helen stood up suddenly. You planned this. All these years, pretending to be less than us, listening to our insults. You were just waiting for the perfect moment to destroy us. No, Aunt Helen. I was living my life, pursuing my passion for teaching, and building my business honestly. You're the ones who assumed I was less than you because I chose a different path. I met her eyes steadily. Your son destroyed this company all by himself. I'm offering him a chance to save something from the wreckage. Why? Derek asked. After how we treated you. Because unlike you, I don't measure success solely by the size of my bank account. I gestured to my teacher's blazer. Every day, I help young people discover their potential. Some, like my former student who now runs my family office, go on to do extraordinary things. Others pursue different dreams. All of them are valuable. I stood up, gathering my things. You have until tomorrow to decide. The paperwork is with your lawyers. Oh, and Derek? I paused at the door. That trading algorithm your team couldn't crack. One of my students developed something better for their senior project last month. You should have paid more attention to those basic coding lessons. The next day, Derek signed the papers in Summit's offices. As he handed over control of his company, he finally asked the question I've been waiting for. How much are you really worth? I smiled. Enough to buy your company 10 times over. But that's not what makes me successful. Then what does? The ability to see value where others don't, in companies and people, in different paths to success. I held out my hand. Welcome to Summit Technologies, Derek. I think you have a lot to learn. 6 months later, Chen Dynamics had been fully integrated into Summit. Derek, stripped of his executive titles but still on the board, was learning humility the hard way. Aunt Helen had stopped talking about my modest career, especially after Forbes ran a profile on Summit's teacher CEO and my unique approach to business and education. My students noticed the article too. "Is it true you're a secret billionaire, Ms. Chen?" one asked during class. "What's true," I replied, "is that success isn't about how much money you have or what others think of your choices. It's about doing what you love and doing it well. But you own like this huge company, and I'm teaching you how to code right now. Both matter. Both have value." I turned to the whiteboard. "Now, who's ready to debug some more Python?" That evening, as I left school, I passed Derek in the parking lot. He'd taken to picking up his daughter, my new student, from my after-school coding club. "She loves your class," he said quietly. "Says she wants to be a teacher and run a company someday, just like her Aunt Emily." I smiled, thinking of all the paths life can take, all the forms success can assume. "Tell her that's a perfectly reasonable goal." "I will." He paused. "You know I never apologized properly for all those years of water under the bridge," I said. "Though you might want to rethink that yearly Most Successful Chin Award at the family Christmas party." He laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in months. "Already canceled. Mom nearly had a stroke when I told her." "Change isn't easy," I acknowledged, "but it's worth it." As I drove home in my still modest Honda, some habits die hard. I thought about success, about choices, about the paths we choose and the assumptions others make. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia. "Students trading algorithm past final testing, ready for implementation." I smiled. Another quiet success, another life change, another reminder that the best investments aren't always the ones that show up on a balance sheet. Some people never learn to look past the surface, to see the real value in different kinds of success. But I do. And I'll keep teaching others to do the same, one Python class at a time. After all, that's what makes me successful.